Uh, on July 18th, Phoenix experienced its 19th straight day with temperatures of at least 43 C, which is 110 degrees Fahrenheit, breaking an 18-day record set in 1974.
Yeah, it's hot. And
But I
yeah,
was just thinking, I was
it
like,
went
if it gets to 110 degrees and you have no air conditioning, I mean, is
if
that habitable? Like, are you actually
if well
living in a
if
habitable zone?
it breaks there, or if, well, you can live there, like you can live in that. But if, first of all, if you're not acclimated to that, you're probably going to get like, well, like heat stroke or something. Like you can't just like be living in central air 24/7 and then go kind of tough it out in 100 to 110-degree weather when it's like midnight and expect to survive. It's not really going to work out too well for you. But I would assume that either you are finding ways to keep cool, and I don't have to know these ways, luckily, but I'm assuming there are ways maybe to keep cool that are at your disposal if you're living in an area that's prone to getting that hot. Or you have your utilities. Now, if they are failing like they did you and they don't come back and it starts killing people, I mean, I'm surprised you wouldn't say this. You're usually the one to point this out. It really depends on who it's probably killing, unfortunately. If it's underrepresented, underserved communities, is that going to move the needle? I mean, you're the first one to usually point that stuff out.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I hear what you're saying. You're talking about more on the larger political framework of whether something is habitable. I guess what I'm trying to get at.
I mean, you brought up earlier this year when the local township cut down the trees during a heat wave to evict homeless people.
That's correct. Yeah, that's right.
And what happened there? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. So what's going to happen when a major utility company fails for a couple days and then, like, I don't know.
But that affects, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that affects everybody. That could happen. I guess what I'm trying to say is that could happen to anybody. You're right. With a localized, concerted effort to remove the homeless population by removing shade, okay, as heartless and cruel as that sounds on paper, or actually, no, as that sounds on podcast. Apparently, it's not that cruel on paper because someone greenlit that and said we can do that. But I hear what you're saying in terms of that. But I guess what I'm just trying to get at the larger demographic.
It hasn't happened yet. No one does it proactively. The answer to your question is it hasn't happened yet. And we don't do things proactively. What do we do proactively?
No, nothing. I guess I was just trying to get at, at what can you say? I hear what you're saying. You're right. We don't do it proactively. What I'm asking the listener out there, and I guess I'm throwing it into the ether. I'm saying that if it is 120 degrees outside and there is the off chance that air conditioning can fail for even an hour or two,
get in the pool.
There is no, the pool is too hot.
There is no pool.
Yeah. Part of me feels like, Jamie's put down the pee on your relative defense. He's like, if they get too hot, just pee on them. They'll be all right. Never mind your dehydration or anything.
You weren't there. You weren't there.
Just pee on your relatives, and everyone will be all right. You just keep cool that way. I feel like it's a real question that people should be asking themselves. Is that if you're living in a place where if the air conditioning were to fail for an hour, and you had a toddler and you had a baby, what is the likelihood that they can survive? And I guess that's where I would write. Yeah, is sure. Habitable.
And your name in Phoenix, I don't know, Arizona. I've seen your debates. Like, what are you guys doing over there?
It's a good question.
I mean, we can't help people that don't want to help themselves in that sense, where they are actively anti-science, actively promoting bogus stuff. I mean, ask them if they believe in climate change. Why is it so hot there for 18 days in a row, whatever you just said? Why is that? Ask them.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like they're two different things. That's the thing. I feel like this is a different conversation that can be had. And I guess that's why I'm surprised that more outlets aren't writing it this way. And having this conversation with you, I'm realizing how difficult a message this is to convey. I think there's a difference between saying, do you believe in climate change? Do you think the Earth is getting warmer? And simply the place you live, if modern amenities were to fail for any given, and this is a relatively short period of time, is your city, is your house, is this actually habitable? And if the answer is no, I think that's just a separate conversation to be had. I guess that's
interesting because we had COVID. We had COVID and millions of people died and even more were impacted. And people think it's a hoax. They think the virus was a hoax. I don't know anymore.
I still feel like I still think it's different. I think it's different because
It's all
there is
different. It's all
there's the
different.
likelihood of
Nothing.
whether you could get COVID or you can't, and there was the severity of COVID, which is what people were also debating. This is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but
Everyone
not
just
everyone is impact. Yeah, but not every. So I don't know what you're talking about in terms of people taking action on a federal level, on a state level, on a township level.
yeah, just what
Because it is like COVID in the sense that it's just Phoenix and the rest of the country doesn't feel it.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is why in the Economist article, which is, I mean, it's literally titled "Americans are moving to places besieged by extreme heat." That's the question I'm asking. How is Phoenix,
Why are they
Arizona?
doing that? Well, I think we said it before because it's affordable.
That's crazy though. That's crazy to move to a
Really?
place that
Because people are still living with their parents into their 40s. Is it crazy?
to move to your death. I would assume so.
No, but they don't think that way because it hasn't happened yet. Now, if
But when
all
it
of a
does
sudden,
happen, I guess
but
will you?
I
I
guess
guess my
they'll
question.
stop. I guess they'll stop moving
Well, no,
there. When you're like Phoenix, it's great when the power's on.
well, look, Texas had that big shortage of their grid, where they could no one was
You
able
just
to
go to
heat
Cancun. It's not a big deal.
that. You could just go south. I, I guess I'm wondering. Yeah, you're right. I'm trying to create a thought level exercise here to just question if it were to get that hot and they were to have a failure of their grid where you were without power for 3 days and the number of people who die, I just wonder, do you think there would be a mass exodus? Do you think people who
You have
recently
to.
bought their homes
You
would
think
say,
people?
this
Yeah,
isn't
but
worth it? I gotta
I
leave.
mean, I think it's probably a mixture of people just not being aware of those types of things, right? You have people buying houses, they do or do not care about the school system. They do or do not care whether or not it's prone to natural disaster, or they don't even know. It's not even do not care. Are they even aware of these things? Do they even know to consider these things, or what is their driving motivation? I just want a house. I looked, and this is the place where I can afford an. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's the only place they can find work. Maybe
Mhm.
there's a job that lures them there. Maybe because of this condition, this situation there, that the state is able to incentivize businesses and then businesses incentivize people to work. They're like, I don't know what the draw is there.
Yeah.
And you have stuff like in, I don't know, California or whatever, where there's wildfires, mudslides, droughts, decade-long drought or
This
whatever.
is
Like you
true.
have stuff that happens and people still go. They either
And we've
don't think
covered
it's
it,
going to
and
happen
people
to them.
people have doubled down. We've covered it. We've covered the people who have decided, they sit and they defend their homes from the fires every year, and they say we're not moving, and this is our home, and it's been an X generation farm or something of that nature, and they refuse to give it up. You're right. We have definitely seen that
People
behavior before.
compartmentalize. They
So
compartmentalize and they say, it's not me, or I'll deal with it when it
yeah,
comes. This is all I can afford. Or, and honestly, this is a big or, they aren't aware. It is not on their radar. Even if they hear it, it is not sinking in. Because the thing is, natural disasters happen everywhere. You have like Tornado Alley. What's more terrifying than a tornado? And
that's
people
true.
still live there.
Yeah, I
Somehow
guess.
this country allows people to live
Yeah. Well,
where
that's
tornadoes shred through stuff.